running your way, but you push me away. Your lifeline, losing your mind. I'm here for you, babe. I've loved you the same this whole time. So tell me, what's on your mind? And I'm not here to hear you say you're fine. I can take the pain you hold inside. I wanna know, wanna see it. Can I feel your grip tonight? Can't get this off my mind. Does it only control you? Let me in, I'll help you out. I won't lose you this time. I feel your grip tonight. Can I feel it? Can I feel you? Can I feel your grip tonight? You think you're too far, but I'm where you are, you know. I said I won't leave your side. They left you bare, but I'm begging you, stare in my eyes for you. Yeah, I'd give my life. And I'm not here to hear you say you're fine. I can take the pain you hold inside. I wanna know, wanna see it. Can I feel your grip tonight? Can't get this off my mind. Does it only control you? Let me in, I'll help you out. I won't lose you this time. Can I feel your grip tonight? Can I feel your grip tonight? Can I feel your grip tonight? And I'm not here to hear you say you're fine. I wanna know, wanna see it. Can I feel your grip tonight? Can't get this off my mind. Does it only control you? Let me in, I'll help you out. I won't lose you this time. Can I feel your grip tonight? Can I feel your grip tonight? Can I feel your grip tonight?
All right. Yes, let's go. Great to see you. Great to be with you. Welcome to day 3 of the Level Up Challenge. Been so pumped the past couple days watching your live video intros coming in. This challenge is all about leveling you up, giving you that big transformation, that big paradigm shift, taking you to the next dimensions and beyond, because we're actually going to be charting out for you. And we've been doing this all week so far, what the next levels are to expect so that you are prepared mentally and emotionally for the major challenges that will come in your life. No matter what, we're all going to have challenges coming in the future, because that's part of growth. That's part of what's required for growth. And so many people who are stuck in phase 1 are resisting that call to growth. They're resisting these challenges because they see them as obstacles. They see them as the reason why they can't get what they want. But that's not you, because you've stuck with it. You are now in day 3. Congratulations. Great to see you here. Let us know where you're tuning in from. In case you don't know who I am, I'm David Tian, and for over the past 14 years now, I've been helping hundreds of thousands of people in over 87 countries attain success, happiness, and fulfillment in life and love. And it has been my great pleasure and honor to be leading you through this 5-day live challenge. And we have been not just educating ourselves and not just getting information and insights and intellectual understanding, but even more importantly, we're right here during these days, this week here live, we are going through the emotional transformation in the unconscious. And if you have been playing full out, doing the step-by-step guided meditations that I'm leading you through the past 2 days, and today we got a lot on this docket for today, a lot on the agenda here. I'll tell you a little bit about that coming up. But if you play full out with what we've got today and the previous days and the rest of the week, you for sure will experience that type of transformation, even at the level of your unconscious. Even if you're not even aware of it, it's happening. If you paid attention and you focused and you did your best, you played all out as much as you could. So it is my honor and pleasure every time I'm getting, it's like the midway point and I'm feeling pretty tired. I canceled a meeting this afternoon just because I needed to take time to prepare for tonight. And I didn't want to do that, but I prioritized this for you guys. And when I feel like dragging my feet, do I really want to do this for free? And then I watch your live video intros and I am pumped because I see the transformation happening in you just from one day to the next. And we're only on day 3. So give you big props for playing full out, all the guys who are engaging and participating in the challenge. Hey, Zach, good to see you. Checking in from Des Moines, Iowa, 7:30 a.m. for you. All right. Thank you for all of the information I usually ask for, the time and where you're at. It's getting a little warm now, so just turn the AC on. Okay, and hey, see, Paul, great to have you on here and the team. I'm just going to give a shout out to all those so far that we've tagged who posted their day 2 challenge. So a big shout out to Debashish, who just went live just before this, and Ratish and Zach, of course, and Darren, great to see your challenge, your 2-parter. And Paul, great to see yours. And Scott Baronins, great to see yours. And Pete Hawking, great to see yours. And Nate, thank you for the vulnerability. And Angel, likewise for that. And Milos, great to see all of your live video intros. Live video challenges really inspired me to go full out. And we've added new segments. I redid the slides, added to them. So we're going to be covering a lot today. I'm looking at my list of things we have to cover. I'm thinking maybe we're a bit ambitious, but we will see how far we go. So today we are in the halfway point, and I am bringing you in from phase 2, explaining what phase 2 is like, and into phase 3. So this is the biggest shift, because phase 1 to 2, for those who have achieved success in some area, you probably felt what that's like, to get serious about something, to go all out, take no prisoners, just keep storming the gates and just not quit, not give up until you get what you want. And applying and learning about that willpower and discipline and training that and all that, that feels like something that even school, that type of energy, school would train you into. But the move from phase 2 to 3 is foreign to almost everyone. And when you finally get into it, it opens up your whole life. It's like you've been looking at life in black and white and not even knowing it, and then suddenly discovering the rainbow of colors available. And you didn't even know that there were other colors. So it's just like how I described about living in a one-dimensional life, then maybe a two-dimensional life, and not being able to conceive of three dimensions, stuff that is, pop out at you, not even understanding what that is because you only have access to two dimensions. So you theoretically understand it, but you haven't experienced it. Today, we will start to experience it. If you've never experienced it before, if you play full out today, the meditative exercises, the material I'm covering will take you there, but you got to go full out and just go all in on it. Okay, so I want to honor all of those who have been doing the live challenges. And for those who have been deciding, should I do the live challenges or not? You can catch up on them, or you can just jump in on the day that you pick up on and you get the courage and you follow through. Okay, so don't be a perfectionist about it. You don't need to catch up if you miss those. You can just hop in and do today's. All right, so this is all about you and leveling up. If you don't stick with this, if you don't play full out, you're going to be stuck at whatever level you're at. And you know what that's like. I've been describing it the past couple of days. You have some degree of progress in that level, and then you plateau, and then you dip, and then you don't know where else to go. And most people just wallow in the dip, and then they just go back and give up. And that's how most people seem to be living these days. They don't know where the next level is. And so they just keep spinning their wheels and burning out. Even if you've achieved success in whatever area is important to you, maybe that's your career, money, with dating and women, or with fitness and health, you probably experience what it's like to apply willpower and discipline. But then you start to burn out because it's not as fresh as it was before. It's not giving you the same high. It's not doing it for you anymore. And this might take a few years for that to kick in, but it will, guaranteed. So I don't want that to be you, even if you're stuck in phase 2. So that's what the subject of today, how to get to that next level of fulfillment, of joy, of happiness, of love. And today and tomorrow, we're going to go deep into how to experience that unconditional love for yourself so you're not needy. And for the guys who are mostly focused on women and getting better with women, I applaud you for staying with us into day 3, where we're doing the psychotherapeutic approach to becoming more attractive. That's sort of my bait for you to take this seriously and try this more direct, more transformative route. And I applaud you if you stuck with it. And I'm just going to keep reminding you that about halfway through this process, especially as you get towards the end of it, you will naturally, as a byproduct, become more attractive. And one of those things you'll notice is you're not attractive, no matter how much you try to compensate for it with money or status or something like that, because it's just covering over your core insecurities. You're not attractive because at core, at the bottom of it, fundamentally, you're still needy. And that neediness is driving your achievement. I'm going to get into some more details about that today. And that's a shitty way to live. And you may not realize that there's another way to live that will give you all of the same achievement, but it will feel effortless and it will be a lot more meaningful. And it won't even be that important to you because you're aiming at a much higher level of existence, of experience, of life. Okay, so that's what's coming up today. I know for guys who are still in phase 1, who are still struggling to get their lives together and just succeed in at least one area, what we're covering today might be just like crazy, highfalutin, there's no possible way, it's too abstract, or whatever. And I get that. So we've been speaking to you the past couple days, the past 2 days. Today, we're going to level you up. And if you're not quite yet at this level that we're taking you to into phase 3, it's okay. Now you know what it is. You get a taste of it. So it's like a preview of what's to come if you just stick with the process. All right, so I want to applaud you for that, encourage you, motivate you, inspire you, and really just like give you a big pat on the back for showing up today, especially for all those who have been doing the live challenges, but showing up today, still being here watching this, that you have committed to your growth, you've committed to your mastery of yourself, your psychology, your emotions, and you realize that it's a myth that everything that's important was taught in school. That's bullshit. And that if you want to find happiness and fulfillment in life, you've got to take responsibility for it yourself and learn and master these areas in these ways where you take it for yourself and you get serious about learning this. So whether it's with me or with someone else, invest in your own psychology and your own emotional growth. It is actually all of the difference, because we strive to succeed in order to what? In order to feel certain things. We're hoping that if we get the money, the babes, the status, the car, the Rolex, the whatever it is that you're working so hard for, the security, that then we'll feel a certain way. And the truth of the matter is you're probably not going to feel that way. Or if you do, it's just going to be for a very, very short period of time. But that's why you're aiming for it. You're hoping in the back of your mind that when you get that thing, you'll finally be able to relax or get that feeling of security, or whatever feeling you're hoping to get. Maybe the feeling of significance, that you finally made it, that you're finally worthy, that you're good enough. And now you can rest. Now you're your ideal person. And this is one of the drawbacks of a lot of the self-development, personal development that's out there, which is like 99% of it, which is the whole become the best version of you. And that's often meant as the version of you right now is shit and you should be ashamed of it. So you better get rid of that so that you can become the best version of yourself. And you need to stay the best version of yourself all the time. Otherwise, your life's going to go to shit. So you can't relax. You have to always be the best version of yourself. And there's a whole lot of, in life coaching in general, there's a lot of toxic beliefs and toxic emotional teachings there that people get sucked into because they dangle that promise of lots of money and whatever that intermediary goal is that you think that will bridge you over to happiness or to self-worth, self-esteem, validation, that you finally are enough. And that could be women, status, money, whatever it is. And some of us get sucked into that because we think there's no other way. Well, there is an even better way. And if you've been struggling through this achievement, today is especially for you. Okay, so listen up. We're going to get into phase 3. Once you master this phase, once you enter it and not yet quite mastered, just entered it, your whole life will change in an amazing way. You might have felt like you've been knocking yourself up against a wall. Is that a right term, idiom? Come knocking up against a wall, and there's no door, there's no gate, there's no bridge out, or you're in that pit and you can't see any way out of the pit. And it just turns out that if you look in a different way, that doorway has been there this whole time, and it opens out into this Garden of Eden. All right, so it's a tall promise. Stick with today, and you will experience it for yourself. Okay, I'm really pumped and excited about phase 3. This is what made the biggest difference for me. This sold me on the trajectory of where I'm going where I've been going for the past several years, and where I've been going for the rest of my life. If there was no phase 3, I probably would have persisted in trying to end my life. And I'll get into that tomorrow, why that is. Because when you're in phase 2 and you've maxed out on the pleasure, you'll discover that philosophically speaking, the only meaning you can have in life is the same meaning as just an animal just trying to stay alive for no other reason. So let's get into it now. Get mute notifications. And let us know where you're tuning in from. I see a whole bunch of people, but I can't see who you are. So I see that Zach's on. Hey, Neil from London. Great to see you on. Let us know where you're tuning in from. How are things for you? Really want to connect with you. And I want you guys to connect with each other and make use of this community. Okay, so I'm going to share the first slide, and it will be a kind of review. Okay, that was getting a little cold. Okay, so bear with me again. I think this is it. Yes. And there we go. Okay, cool. Ratish from Singapore. Great to see you, Ratish. We do miss Singapore. Tang Chun from Malaysia. Good evening to you too. All right, so we are here in day 3. Oh, I have to click on this. And you can see here that many people get stuck in the dip and they don't realize there's another level. So they just give up and move back, but there is a breakthrough. The breakthrough is a different way of seeing things. It's not the same thing that got you to that point. It's a different thing that you're not aware of yet. So it comes from an unexpected place. So then we moved into emotion theory, emotions being a combination of the phenomenology and the interpretation, and that you have control over the interpretation, what the thing means. Okay, then we got into the plan, the reality, this wonderful, funny diagram here. And then I want to explain the chrysalis. So I've been talking about breakthrough with lots of different analogies and lots of different metaphors because it's just so important to grasp that the ways, the methods, strategies, tactics that you've been using to get what you've gotten in life up to this point are not going to get you to the next phase. In fact, they very likely are hampering you to the next phase. Otherwise, you would have already gotten it. Like just give you a few months and you would have figured it out. And I've seen this happen with achievers who are really good at their workplace, or just like powering through learning school, doing school stuff. and then learning about attraction, and they apply the same warrior mindset or that magician mindset of figuring it out and then applying discipline and willpower to it, and they persist, and they'll crack the code on attraction. That's what I did, and that's what most of my other nerd geeky friends did. And if you just stick with it, you'll figure it out. However, there are many people who think they're in phase 2 night, but they're actually in phase 1, and maybe they've been getting by on their innate intelligence, or maybe they just had an easy school system that didn't grade you too hard. You know, that's happening a lot. And they've never had to really apply discipline and willpower and creativity around these solutions. So they just give up because or for all of those cases, there's this kind of anxiety that maybe they haven't learned to face the fear and power through it. Instead, they give into the fear and let the anxiety take over. And then that their brain freezes when they talk to a woman. So the next phase for you is not going to be, even for those guys who power through and figured out women, you haven't really figured out women and dating. I don't know, maybe 95 to 99% of dating coaches are still in that category. They figured out the first inning, attraction, getting laid, but they haven't figured out that the deeper connection, giving love, right? Not all of them, I can't speak for all of them, but most of them, the vast majority. And the reason is they're applying that phase 2 night energy to this area and wondering why there's no love and connection in a kind of deeper way. And there's just this kind of type of conquering, right? This type of validation and significance seeking. So it's this other phase is totally different, like the chrysalis. So here's an example of the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. And I was talking about yesterday, I wonder if a caterpillar guy looks up at these winged creatures, these beautifully colored, fluttering butterflies, and wondering, hey, is that my cousin Vinny? Because they're just so different. They may not recognize that they're the same species. Like you can imagine that. So when they go into the cocoon, it could feel, you can imagine that it feels like it's in their tomb and now they're going to die, but they're not. And so many of us can feel like we're in a tomb when in fact you're just a little bit away from the next amazing breakthrough if you just stick with it. Now, there are real life examples, I should have brought those onto the slide, of cocoons that are eaten or half broken, right? And then they just died because the thing wasn't sealed or whatever. And that's where something's happened and the thing is not, the gestation period, the cocooning is not done. And they somehow come out prematurely and then the whole thing ends. Don't prematurely break your cocoon. Stick with it. Now, what's this stick with it if you don't know where the next thing is? And that's why on day 1, we went into a meditation about trust. Trusting, making that choice that that the life is working for you, not to you, or not against you. But if you just trust it and just choose that option, just choose that interpretation, then everything looks different. And because the perspective is different, the interpretation is just different. The emotional experience of life completely transforms just by making a new choice, right? Because you've probably heard of the obstacle is the way. It's a saying that comes right out of Stoicism. Ryan Holiday's written a really fantastic book called Obstacle is the Way, and it gives lots of historical examples of how the obstacle is the way. By that it means, the saying means, there's no other way to the other side except through the obstacle. So the obstacle is the bridge. But so many people resist the obstacle. They ask, why are there so many obstacles? Why am I having so many problems? Why am I having so many challenges? It should be easy. It should be effortless. No. The next phase, it should feel, if you're resisting it, like you're going to die, just like the chrysalis. Okay, so I'm going to be expanding on that tomorrow as well for those who feel like you might be in that period where you just need to endure. And if you endure enough, you will be reborn whole into a brand new dimension of existence. All right, so just stick with it, even if it doesn't quite make sense fully yet. All right, even if you struggle with the concepts, I don't really feel it. That's good, because the way forward, the next method of strategies, techniques, or whatever it is that will take you to the next level aren't going to be naturally part of what's included in the mastery of the earlier phase. Okay, so the chrysalis, great metaphor for this whole idea. So yesterday I went over the phase 2 limitations, and some other people. Hey, Jalen from Ballarat, Australia. Very cool. Where's Ballarat? Closer. What's the biggest major city? Unless it's a big major city and I'm just ignorant. Great to have you tuning in from Australia. Good night to you. Jonathan in Malta, awesome, great to see you here. And Neil, of course, good to see you. And John out in Sydney, awesome. Got some Australians joining us here. Great to have you guys on. Yesterday, I went over the strengths of the phase 2 night, and then I also covered the downsides of the phase 2 night. So when you're in phase 2 and you at the beginning, it just feels great because you're achieving your goals and you probably get some momentum going. I went over takeoff velocity, and it feels relatively effortless when you start phase 2 night. So and it's just exciting because you're achieving lots, you're getting lots of success. After a while, it could be anywhere from 6 months to 10 years, you start to get the downsides, the limitations of phase 2, where you start to realize you're driven by a neurotic need for significance. You start to feel that there's a sort of one-dimensional reliance on powering through as the energy, the sort of aggressive energy to accomplish things, and it burns you out. So you start to get triggered too often, start to act out, and you have this sort of background gnawing feeling of just wanting to rest and just wanting to be finished with the thing. So you can finally retire on a beach in Maui or whatever the dream is, because you're just sort of burnt out. And you don't understand your yin emotions. I use the term yin kind of analogously with yin yang, right? So yang being the power, the more masculine energy, stereotypically masculine, and then the yin being more of the tender, vulnerable emotions that are themselves incredibly powerful, but just in a completely different way. And the knight doesn't understand how to tap into that. He only knows that one mode, that one gear, and he's just riding that one gear and just killing his vehicle. Okay, so but at the beginning, he's just moving, so that feels great, and you're just like chugging along, and eventually you're still in the first gear or whatever, and you start killing that car. And he doesn't understand there are all these other gears, and that's when he has to move into phase 3, or he will burn out and probably act out, maybe self-destruct. And this is where you see, historically, you see, sociologically, you see a midlife crisis where a guy just freaks out and changes everything and buys a BMW convertible and when he's got gray hair and just sort of, that sort of thing, tries to get a new young trophy wife, that kind of thing. And that's because he hasn't found the next phase. He's just spinning his wheels in that same phase. So here's a funny illustration of the type of coaching or advice, guidance that you might get at phase 2. And if you're towards the end of phase 2, or if you already are in phase 2, you'll find this really cute and funny. So I'm going to just share this, and it is do a stop share on this one. This is a Shia LaBeouf acting study, so it's ironical. Share sound. And it's just a lot of fun. So I just want to show you this as an illustration of what bad life coaching is, but it's awesome acting and it's hilarious. So.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it! If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
Okay, that was awesome. I hope you found that hilarious. If you're in phase 1 novice, you might have actually been pumped by that. You're like, yeah, just do it. But the whole thing is ironical. So hopefully you can see that this illustration, I'm showing this to you as an illustration of an ironical take on the limitations of a phase 2 night approach to life. So you can just eventually, by the point where you are towards the latter half, past the midway point in your phase 2 journey, that type of energy you're very well acquainted with, of the just do it. I love the yesterday you said tomorrow, just do it, right? And if you're tired of what was that last thing you said? If you're tired of if you're tired of starting over, stop giving up or something like that. It's just hilarious, right? These are just obvious, just really freaking obvious. And it's just a matter of, do you have it in you? Do you have the gumption? Do you have the willpower? Do you have the fucking get it done energy to fucking get it done? Simple. But there are tons of people who are following. I mean, more than 50% of the world, it seems, are in phase one, where they're not able to tap into that energy yet. So there's a whole level of life coaches who are like Navy SEALs or something like that, ex-Navy SEALs, who basically are just shouting at you like drill sergeants or boot camp, instructors or whatever, and just screaming at you like, do it, just fucking do it, right? Basically in different ways, and more entertaining ways, stuff like that. But hopefully you've experienced some of that energy in your life already, and you've probably, if you apply that, you'll definitely achieve, like just through hard work, just fucking work hard. And I know a lot of guys who maybe they've been coddled, or maybe their society or school. I'm Gen X, so the earlier generations or the later generations, the millennials and what do they call the other Gen Zs, are used to being, I've read, especially Gen Zs are used to being more coddled, safe spaces, microaggressions, trigger warnings, stuff like that. So they're just maybe not used to just struggling and life being hard. And maybe I've worked with people who feel bad that there's homework. Like, why is there homework? So that's not my generation. We assume that life is hard, homework sucks, and no one likes it, but you do it anyway if you want the grade. And that's what you do. Stop whining, just fucking do it. And that type of energy was, especially in the area of school, was very familiar to me as a child, especially as a teenager, and to my social circles, my family circles. So seeing that is kind of funny. And we were very well acquainted then with the limitations of that, and why that's ironical. And I worked with a guy, I'm gonna tell you this, illustrate the phase 2 to phase 3 switch, not switch, the breakthrough, with the example of a client of mine who worked with us for a few months and then became a very close assistant. And his name is Nathan. And Nathan started out with us already doing decently in life. He was a part-time musician, incredibly creative, artistic in that area, but he was also driven, and he had accomplished quite a lot in his professional life. So when it came to learning the methods and strategies of attraction, which is several years ago when he first came to us, he picked it up pretty quickly because he just applied the same phase 2 night, just get it done, practice until you get it perfect, type of attitude, and brought it to this area where you just rehearse and then just keep doing it until it becomes second nature. And he just did that, and he picked it up pretty quick because, relatively speaking, learning attraction material is relatively easy. So if you ever stop to think about it, the amount of words you need to learn and the kind of variations and complications involved in attraction is not like learning calculus or the degree of complexity for whatever, even high school level chemistry, right? So, or physics or whatever, right? So if you can do that, you can intellectually handle what you need to learn to become attractive to most women, right? And he did that. He picked it up pretty quick because he didn't have those blockages that phase 1 novices have with overwhelming anxiety or crippling anxiety. Instead, he already had this, just get it shit done and just go and do it and shut up about it and just do it. And he just went and did it. And within a few months, he was dated. He went from pretty much being a virgin. I think he had one or two sexual experiences when he came to us. And then dating models, dating very sought after women. Actually, his rate of progress surprised even me. Even after having coached hundreds of guys in person for years up to that point, I was still surprised at how quickly he picked it up because he had different modalities available. He had the music and the art of that and facility with that and thinking on your feet. So a big part of attraction is being able to think on the fly and just react and having conversational pieces. And it's a lot like improvisation with music, especially jazz. So you have the basic structure of the chord changes and the harmonies, and then you just make up a melody, make up a solo in between it. And you kind of riff off of the rest of the players there. So you're constantly listening and reacting, but you have stuff that you've rehearsed. So it's the same sort of thing. It's very similar to improvisation in music. So he had that, but he also had the discipline, the willpower, the not take rejection and failure too personally, because that's how you succeed. You have to keep failing until you get it right, and then you just keep doing it right. So So he did pretty well. And then the problem was, even though he had a girlfriend, it seemed, or a girl he was dating in every country that he was visiting, this is like a dozen countries or so, none of them were serious, even though they all wanted to be serious with him, it seemed. He didn't get serious with any of them. He didn't want to commit, didn't want to settle. He felt like tied in or stifled. If it got too heavy, the connection got too deep. And I discovered, just as he told me about these issues, where he actually it became like these relationships were empty and kind of meaningless. It was just for sex and fun, and it was getting kind of boring. And he wanted something deeper, but he was too afraid to go there. That's when I realized, oh, okay, he's now ready, and he's asking for help to move into the next phase. And we went through with him what we're covering today and tomorrow, and over the period of several months, walking him through that process of breaking through into phase 3 and experiencing the power of his own vulnerability, being able to lean into the fear of commitments, of how he was hurt in the past, in his childhood. And when it gets too deep, that's where the wounds are from his early caregivers. And it was re-triggering that wound that was so deep. And he was his protective parts are jumping in to say, no, don't go there. And as he's able to work with those parts and understand their fears and have them relax back, he's now able to experience this much more fulfilling life, much more also a life full more of love. There's plenty of pleasure, it seems, as well with it. But more importantly, for phase 3 is experiencing that at a deeper level. So this is Nathan's story, but what about your story? So I'm going to move it back to, for those who are, I'm addressing those who are in phase 1 and 2. How then can you get to that next level? So the first thing to realize if you're in phase 2 is that a lot of your achievements are actually driven by what the psychotherapeutic perspective is fear. Now, part of the fear is that if you stop being driven by that type of stressful, neurotic, beat yourself up, willpower, powering through energy, then you will fail and you will regress to phase 1, and you won't be able to pay the bills, you'll just be a bum. And so I understand that fear. I was an achiever for most of my life. I guess depending on which area of my life you're looking at, a good 2 decades or more. So I get that fear. However, so I'm going to speak to that fear directly right now, that there is another way to achieve even more, and that's achievement from desire. Now, the beginning of phase 2 stage, you were probably achieving from desire. It felt that way because it was fresh, it was new, you had some momentum, you had the takeoff velocity, and it felt great. And so you get into that cruising altitude. And then you start to run into trouble because you're still in switching analogies now, you're just going in first gear. So yeah, you're going, you got that velocity, you got the takeoff velocity, you got the momentum, but you're just going in that one gear of powering through. And now you're no longer driven by just desire, you're now having to push. You're really having to push yourself. And now the Shia LaBeouf energy, which is funny also in a kind of sad way, because you're like, that's how I talk to myself. There are parts of me that talk to myself that way. Can you relate to that? Any of you can relate to that? I remember in high school and in university in my 20s, I got 3 masters and a Ph.D. and did lots of other stuff on the side as well, extracurriculars. Starting from high school, I was very churched from a very conservative Christian background. I had printed above my bed a Bible verse from Proverbs. I didn't plan to tell you this, so I forgot to look it up. But I lived with that above my bed from probably 14, 15 years old, all the way up until about 23, 24 years old. So even in grad school, I had either had it put above my bed or above my desk. So I could see it easily all the time. And I would just literally go and type it out on Word and just print it on a normal printer, and then just tape it with Scotch tape on the wall. And it was a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of your hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a bandit, and scarcity like an armed man. In therapy, I discovered that this phrase kept coming up, this Bible verse from Proverbs 25 something or other. And I had forgotten it for I hadn't thought about it for 15, 20 years or something like that. And then it started coming up just like that. It just came off my tip of my tongue. If I start the verse, it just rolls off. And that's how you condition yourself, by the way. If there are other affirmations you want to implant in your unconscious, put them everywhere and see them all the time. And just start to say them. And that was one of them for me. I'm going to take this off here. That was one of those for me. And imagine that. Imagine a life where you thought if you fold your hands to rest, if you take a little nap, you will have scarcity and you will have a poverty. It will come upon you like a bandit. That's what I believed. So I never rested. I was about to take a nap and I saw that. I'm like, fuck no, get back, read, work, whatever it was in school. And I accomplished a whole lot. But you can imagine that type of energy is energy driven by this kind of neurotic fear or worry or concern about what would happen if I didn't keep pushing. Versus, and everyone understands it, what it's like to kick ass from because you just love it. And maybe you're really good at your video games or whatever you're really good at just because you love it, just from passion. And that achievement can still happen and will continue to happen once you're able to speak to the fear. Now, next slide. This is a great way to put it. It's from Anthony Robbins. Stress is the achiever's word for fear. So saying to an achiever, it's because you're afraid, that's why you're working so hard, might trigger them. They're like, I got no fear. I got a fucking warrior, man. No way. I'm not afraid of nothing. I'm going to really work hard and stay up till 4 a.m., even though I definitely don't want to do that, and hand this assignment in at 6 or whatever, 6 a.m. And there's no fear. No, there's no fear. So if you just sit with it long enough, if you say, are you stressed? They say, yes. Stress is like something you can be proud of. Especially, well, actually for Gen X anyway, for my generation, it was something that you wore proudly. My bags under my eyes, I developed those. I earned those like scars on a battlefield. So when I showed up to my grad school class, the professors realized David works hard. Man, he's pulled an all-nighter again. It's, even though I just developed these naturally, just from studying. Right? So it's like a point of pride. Yes, I'm stressed. Aren't you stressed? If you're not stressed, you're not pushing hard enough. That's an achiever's mindset. And it's actually coming from fear. Because if you look at it more closely, you're stressed and you're pushing yourself so hard because you're afraid of what might happen if you didn't do that. And that's actually a fear. And it might, and to the achiever who's first time thinking about this, it might seem like a very well-grounded fear. It's sort of like, for them, first time thinking about it, a guy who's solidly phase 2 would be like, yeah, no duh, who isn't afraid of being a bum or failing or losing your money or whatever, right? That's how they would react to it. And so I'm now taking the time to point out that this fear is what's driving them. Now, they might choose to be driven by the fear because they think there's no other way to do it. Okay, and we're going to speak directly to that now. Okay, so just realizing and pointing out that this achiever energy in phase 2 is actually rooted in fear. And hopefully that triggers the achiever to think more deeply because it's generally not something that they think is a good thing. Stress is a point of pride, but fear, oh no, that means a lack of courage, and I can't have that. But there is something that you've denied that you're kind of like, it's in your unconscious mind, this fear. And now we're bringing it out and putting it out into the open so that we can examine it. So what's happening often is that there are critical parts that don't think that you're enough because if they're afraid that if you stop working so hard, if you stop pushing yourself so hard, that you will not be enough anymore. That's fundamentally these fears, the deeper fear. So I'm going to point out just something. Hopefully this isn't too small. I just realized this is pretty small print. So we don't notice this consciously because this is something that is buried in our unconscious from our coping strategies. I'll get into that in a deeper way later, but I'm just going to skip through some of these in the interest of time. So what will happen is the achiever doesn't look or feel or sound afraid at first. And when you find that part of you, so I realized that yesterday I introduced the idea of parts and the modalities, the modularity of the brain. We visited with 4 parts in you that are archetypes: the warrior, the lover, the magician, and the king parts of you. And there are other parts. There are parts that are critical because they're afraid that if you don't do something or other, that you won't be good enough, or that some pain will come, or something you're afraid of will happen, or the overwhelming sadness will result, or you'll get hurt. And that's why they're critical. They have positive intention because they're trying to protect you and themselves from getting hurt. They're trying to protect you from getting hurt. And so we need to turn towards them and understand them. So this is happening early on in childhood. This decision was made in response to a traumatic event or micro trauma. And then the decision was made to become critical on yourself. Just like for me, I'll take me as an example, that Bible verse I kept taping above my bed because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to let down those that I wanted the approval of those that I craved love from. So, and the way to do that I unconsciously picked up was to achieve, was to excel, especially in school. So this was so deep in my unconscious, I wasn't noticing this consciously. And it didn't feel like fear. So if you said the guy's afraid, you think, what? No, he works really hard. He's not afraid of anything. What are you talking about? And instead, they often sound angry or authoritarian. They sound very sure of themselves, sure they're right and you're wrong. So you being the one that's coming to them and saying, are you in pain? Are you tired? Do you want to rest because you don't need to do this job this way? But what if the more sure and authoritarian these critical parts of you feel, actually the more scared they are really deep down? What if it's all actually this struggle, this pushing against is actually coming from fear? You see, critical parts in us are needing to exert control. Fear and control are two sides of the same coin. The control is there to manage the thing that they're afraid of, and they're trying to keep back the fear. And fear can be felt in different ways. It could be felt as panic, terror, anxiety, as well as worry or concern. So the solution I'm going to present to you here is empathy with the fear, feeling with, understanding that fear. And now we start to move into phase 3. See, notice how different this solution is from the solution that's been working in phase 2, which is just push harder. Going back to the Shia LaBeouf, just do it type of energy. That's what drove you through in phase 2 to get those achievements. And then it started to take its toll because that's actually toxic energy. Now we are going to turn towards the thing that we've been trying to ignore, that we've been trying to push back, that we've been trying to exile or repress. And we're going to turn to it with empathy. Coming to understand that the critical parts feel that they have a good reason, a positive intention for being that way, for doing that. And coming to them with the sort of energy of, no wonder you're struggling so hard. Of course you're working so hard because you're afraid that this would happen, that XYZ would happen. And just coming to an understanding as the first step, just understanding and a kind of acceptance of the fact that this is how they are right now. Just coming to an understanding, not needing to change them yet, but just looking to understand and feel with them. Okay, so this is a fun caption I found today. We're going to be looking into the closet through a very pleasant meditation, a remix. I've rewritten Sarah Blondin's meditation and put it to a different type of music and all that. And as an illustration to prepare you for it, this is something I found. The ending of Monsters, Inc. makes me cry some serious tears. When Boo opens the closet door looking for Kitty, it just kills me. So anyway, I thought that was good. And we're going to be looking in that closet. I'll be leading you through a little story about that. And it's just a super gentle meditation. And are you ready? And I just want to, say also, I just want to catch up on the comments here. A bunch of hellos I noticed. John Chapala from South Sioux City, Nebraska. Great to see you. Dwayne from Jamaica. Very cool, from Jamaica. Great to have you join us. And see a bunch of other people joining in. So just say hi, where you're from, so other guys can see where you're from and just connect and realize you guys, there's actually a pretty intimate group here, but like everyone's from different continents. This is pretty cool. So we're going to be leading into now this meditation about transforming your fear, coming to understand. And if you don't yet acknowledge that there's fear that's driving you, just stay open to the possibility. It's a very gentle meditation. And again, with all of our meditations, close your eyes. So you want to, if you're operating any heavy machinery, pull over before you close your eyes. And then you want you to close your eyes, put in some earphones preferably, and find a quiet place where you can relax and just get into it. Okay, this is a really gentle meditation. Zach Johnson says, end of Monster Inc. Tears coming. Yes, I got to rewatch that. Anyway, so awesome. So you guys are prepped, and let's get going on this one. Share the video background that our team has prepared for this in case you decide to open your eyes. All right, and Here we go. Rest a while here and let me tell you a short story about a boy who finally chose to face the fear that was haunting him. Fear came again to the boy's door. He woke with it there, tightly wrapped around his chest, heavy as boulders, suffocating the space within him, like fingers clasped around his rib cage. It slowly squeezed the air from his lungs from time to time. Each time it ceased, the boy threw hateful thoughts onto it, wished it away, silently muttering to himself, "Great, it's back. Will this cycle ever end? Will this fear ever leave me?" He squirmed and struggled under its force. He piled resentment and judgment against it, tried to ignore it, distracting himself with everything he could, until he wished it away so hard that a voice came in as gentle opposition and offered him resolution. The voice from inside the boy said, "Have you ever wondered if this fear haunting you serves more of a purpose than to be something you wish away? Have you ever asked this force living in the spaces around your heart from where it came and what it wishes so desperately for you to hear?" The boy stopped for a moment in quiet reflection, bewildered that he had never considered this before. He decided to put down his resistance and breathe deeply into the tight fist clenched around his chest. He breathed into the heat, the pressure, the force cocooning the cavity around his heart, and he softened to it. He, for the first time in his life, let his fear speak. He said, "Dear tension living in my chest, what do you wish me to hear? Why do you come with such presence and force and hold me so tightly in your grasp? What do you wish to say to me?" And as he released to the heat growing within him, to his amazement, it answered, "I wish to tell you, you are alive. I wish to remind you of the life inside of you, longing to be lived more fully. I hold so tightly to you because I am a constant reminder that there is good work for you to do. Work for you to do in the name of your freedom and joy. The more you lose yourself in doing all you must do to bring your soul life and sweet pools of light, the more I shall release my grasp. Know that me being here is my way of loving you into remembrance of your heart's desire. The more you work at finding, spreading, teaching love, the less I will need to hold you so tight. Don't be afraid to feel me when I arrive here in your chest. I am but a fierce and loyal reminder that life, your life, is in your hands. Face me with courage. I am here to serve your greater good." "Fear, my dear," it said to him, "does not have to be so dark. It never has to be something you fear to breathe into. My message for you, dear one, is of coming to more peace and wholeness." And then it lifted. It vanished from the boy's center and left shards of light in open fields where it was once closed inside him. He sat in wonder and gratitude and realized nothing was worth wishing away. that even his fear existed to serve his life, to love him into remembrance that he needs to realign with all that brings him greater love and purpose. Fear is not the only face of our spirit's messengers. Others experience different emotions or tensions. Some feel waves of anxiety, sadness, sleeplessness, worry, panic. The list is long. Take a moment to consider all of these energies humming in your world. Take a moment to ask yourself if you have faced these feelings arising within you, or if you continually ignore or reject their presence. Take a moment to consider the wisdom and insight you are not opening to because of your fear to face these strong forces bubbling purposefully below your surface. When anxiety or tension swell in our bodies, we often resist, fight, or avoid them. We rarely question what it came to reveal, and even more rarely consider these emotions as messengers of love. Nothing inside ourselves is meant to be feared or forced away. Acceptance and exploration of these places is our way to find peace in our lives. Each emotion, sensation of panic or fear, can be relieved by loving, softening to it, and asking, just as the boy did in the story, from where it came, and what it wishes so strongly, so fiercely for us to hear. Nothing appears or manifests in our life for the purpose of being avoided or condemned. All hold value, purpose, and keys to doors we've been wanting to open. Go inside your body and breathe yourself open until all the space within you feels fluid and tender. Release tensions and closures that are constricting the healthy flow of life pulsing freely. Take a moment to befriend the spaces within you that feel hard and closed. Let them soften, expand. Allow them to speak if they need to. See their presence as one of love. Shift from a perspective of resentment into acceptance. Repeat silently or aloud after me. I will try to honor life in all of its great mysterious waves of peace and fear. To come to a place of acceptance of all aspects within me. To release judgment and criticism of the process. And the parts that appear in all their forms. I will try to come to a place where I see the beauty in both what I consider dark and light. to see the only way into more light is by courageously asking my fears to speak. And allowing them room to deliver what they keep attempting to. I will try to come into communion with the reality that there is both wondrous darkness and overwhelming light. Both are important. One is not the same without the other. This is how I will try to choose to live. How I will choose to love my life. No matter what parts of me come up. This is how I will find greater peace. This is how I will live. In all the love I am intended to. Try your best to face the dark, dear friend. Peel back the fingers of the clenched fist around your heart and bring it from its place in the dark. Allow it to transform into sweet shards of light and receive the messages intended to bring you into alignment with more love. All right, wonderful. How is that for you? Just type into the comments as you're slowly, gently opening your eyes, coming back into the room you're sitting in. Please share with us how that was for you. I'm going to put a little bit of reflection music on in the background. So any moment now, there will be music appearing. Here we go. Okay, so just going to take, I know there's a 10 to 15 second lag from when you type in the comment and I see it here because there's this lag in the API for Zoom. So I'm just going to pause for a bit here and just take in from you how that was. Did you get that lesson of the story of turning towards your fear and discovering that your fear can speak to you and give you a lesson or give you a message about its positive intention for you? That the fear and the thing that you're afraid of, all of that is there to serve you in some way. And when you see it that way, the fear itself falls away. And it's just the part now in love or feeling love. So just let us know how that was for you. Just pause a little bit. I'm reminding myself to pause and allow you to type and just share how that went for you. And then we'll move into phase 3, the sage, and get into the strengths of the sage and then the how-to of accessing it. But hopefully that meditation helps you to turn it towards the fear that is driving that phase 2 night energy. And if you've been in the phase 2 night energy for a while, this is going to really hit home. If you're in phase 1, it may not yet hit home, but this is really strongly for phase 2. All right, Jalen wrote, recognizing that fear serves a purpose. Absolutely. Awesome. Neil wrote, beautifully put, understanding my fears. Yes, exactly. John wrote, I started feeling tears about to come during towards the middle. Wonderful. Don't hold those back. Just let them flow. No one's watching anyway. It's all for you. Don't repress any emotion when you're on your own like that. There's no question of socially acceptable emotions when you're by yourself listening to a meditation. Just let the tears flow. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. Dipto wrote, great to be just in time for the, okay, he just joined for his lunch break. Have been driven so much by fear of failure that eats into the joy of learning. Looking into the fear may bring that joy back into my work and life. Absolutely. Awesome. Great to have you join us too. Tang Jun Jie wrote, thank you. That was wonderful. I've been doing something similar, trying to understand my fear over the past year, and it's been much better now, but there's still rumblings of existential dread that lingers and comes back in my quiet moments, even while I was doing the exercise. Yeah, great. So that's great self-awareness. And it might be that through the help of therapy, being able to dig into the memories of the traumatic or micro-traumatic micro-traumas, where those fears were developed, you'll discover something like mine. I discovered that one of the roots of the achiever neurotic fear was that proverb that stuck in my unconscious. And so it's just being able to find the root of it allows you then to let go, or more easily let go. Of course, then that's just the beginning of it. If you trace it back to your teenage years, there's always something even earlier than that. John wrote, stress. Okay. Zach Johnson wrote, this one hit hardest for me, heart tugging. Wow, that's great to hear. Thank you for that feedback. And I'm so happy that that's happened for you. And Darren wrote, by far the best meditation ever. Wow. Was holding on to my tears until the music played in the middle. It showed me to face my fear and not run away. Awesome, Darren. Awesome. Loved hearing that, seeing that. Great. So it looks like the implication is that you did allow the tears to flow. You didn't repress that emotion. That's just awesome. And I'm so gratified. That's the way to go, man. Great stuff, guys. And I'm just gonna now move on. But if you'd still like to share, go ahead and do that. We'll see it the next time we pause. So the phase 3, so let's move on to what is phase 3. Phase 3 sage. The phase 3, and the person in phase 3, I call him the sage, or him or her, the sage. The sage is no longer driven by the needs of significance or security, and is now led by love, and is able to meet his own needs fully. He enjoys leading with his vulnerability because there's no fear in it. So a lot of needy guys, the guys in phase 1, who maybe take the advice of a phase 3 sage who can't relate back to when he or she was in phase 1, and says stuff like, lead with your vulnerability. Phase 1 guy might think, oh, now I just spill my guts and share all of my insecurities with my date. And then when she cringes and runs away or is turned off, he's like, see, it didn't work. Wah, wah, wah. So phase 1 guy is not ready for phase 3 because he's not really comfortable with his vulnerability. He's not doing it without fears, not doing it with courage. In phase 3, you're able to be vulnerable without fear. And that's when it's incredibly attractive. But you have to earn it in the sense of you got to be in phase 3 or on your way to it in order to be able to do that effectively. Otherwise, you're looking for it to come back. So you're sharing your vulnerability with some other goal. You're using it for some other goal versus just being it as it's just an expression of how you are. And the phase 3 sage has felt the futility of powering through. Now, that's not always the case. I've seen some exceptions of therapists who are, I would say, solidly phase 3 sages, but who could use some help with some of that phase 2 night energy of just getting shit done. And in the archetypes yesterday, I described that situation where the lover archetype, if it doesn't have the balancing effects of the warrior or the king or the magician, might end up with kind of just delusion and just fully experiencing all the time. So it does help to have gone through phase 2 night, and for almost everyone who has entered phase 3 sage has gone through that phase of the night. So that's why I go through the progression that way, and that's how I experienced it as well. How did the phase 3 sage enter into phase 3? It began with a turn inward. So that was part of what we just did together, turning inward instead of repressing the fear and fighting it as if it were a thing that you do not want, or this it's a bad thing, turning towards it instead, turning around and coming towards it. So that's a turn inward. Trying to understand what vulnerability is like, why it's so hard to be vulnerable for real, and that it's not some tool that you use, but it's something that you embrace, and coming to a place of full radical acceptance of all aspects of and all parts of the self, all parts of you. And one of the easiest ways to track is that he's learned to meet his own needs. And I'm going to get into that now because that's the most straightforward one to explain. And turn inward, we did that together. We just experienced that together. And so many of you were so moved by that. So I'm so pleased about that. So awesome. Tomorrow, we're going to get deeper into vulnerability and open up into phase 4. So that's the door into phase 4, deeper vulnerability. But it's also a paradigmatic shift that's really profound. So let's just get into the learning to meet your own needs part, especially because that is what's required to not be needy anymore. And neediness is the biggest attraction killer. So that's the thing that will affect your attraction the most. So if you are needy, that's the opposite of attraction. So the more needy you are, the less attractive you are. So the less needy you are, the more attractive you are as a man attracting women. So hopefully I've enticed you, if you're not yet enticed by just experiencing more love, joy, happiness, fulfillment, gratitude, all that good stuff, and you're still on about women and stuff, still sort of a phase 1 level, it'll also make you as effortlessly attractive as you could possibly be. So, 90% of the way there. Then I'd add in like a makeover and stuff like that. That all that stuff kind of helps, fashion and all that. But the core of it is reducing your neediness, or addressing the neediness there by learning how to meet your own needs, not by repressing it, which is the pickup artist and the dating coaches on YouTube and all of that. 99% of them just try to repress or hide the neediness. They just try to ignore it, push it down, exile it away, and it doesn't work. Actually, it's more toxic in the long run. So here we're going to do the healthy way. We're going to do the therapeutic way of addressing the neediness by examining the actual needs that are not being met. There's neediness because there are needs that are not being met. Okay, so what are these? So there are 10 universal human needs that I'll chart out for you here. In my courses, Rock Solid Relationships and Masculine Mastery, and in Lifestyle Mastery, and in Invincible, and in Freedom U, and in the Legendary Coaching Group, I have material, I have actual walk you through these universal human needs in a much deeper way. So I'm going to give you a crash course on this right now in a few minutes, but just realize that I could expand on all of these, each of these in a lot more detail, and I do that in the bigger courses. So just to give you an idea, Rock Solid Relationships is over 35 hours of audio video material, along with PDF slides that go along with all of that. So it's I can go into a lot more detail about this, and there's a lot more transformative effects that could happen, but I'm going to deliver as much as I can within this time frame. So here we go. The first human need that comes online is certainty or security. And you can see this from just the trajectory of evolution. So we are born as human beings. Our brains have grown faster than the womb of our females evolutionarily. So we pop out of that womb really early compared to other animals. This is probably our evolutionary advantage, and we outsmart all the other animals, and that's why we're apex. But the cost of that is a very long gestation period, or a very long dependency period as a child. So literally, when you are a newborn, you are 100% dependent on other people, adults, to take care of you. If you didn't have anybody taking care of you, you would die. You're not capable of meeting your own physical needs yet as a newborn baby. So it makes sense that we have ingrained in us this need for security and certainty, because if we didn't have certainty, we need certainty that we won't die. And you can get that certainty even just from human touch, skin to skin. So that's mandated in most hospitals around the world now when a baby is first born, to put it on the mother right away, and you have that skin to skin touch, and you leave it there for whatever, an hour or whatever, just to give that will of life to the child who can't see or anything yet, and just if it just came out into the world in a really shocking way for it, after breathing through in the mother's womb for 9 months. So the first need that comes online is security, certainty, some phase one novices are driven by still this need for security. And if you are, you're kind of in a survival mode, because maybe you could be driven by that if you don't know where the money is coming from, or if you don't have security around your physical safety, or if you don't know where the food's coming, or if maybe you have an illness and you're not sure. There's a lot of uncertainty there. So if that's the case, you're probably feeling your need for certainty quite acutely because it's not being met, right? So most people are unable to actually meet any of their needs. But if life works out well, then certainty drops down that list, because the modern world has helped us to meet our needs for security in many ways. That's part of modernization. So then once we feel secure, maybe we have parents who take care of us in the hospital, even if you're in an ICU as a little newborn and you're in a little box or whatever. They try to put the newborns together so they can at least touch each other, and that gives them more will to live. So, and actually it skyrockets the will to live compared to just leaving the baby on its own in the ICU in that little box. So certainty is the first one that comes online. It makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. And when you have your need for security or certainty met, then the next need comes up online, which is that you need to know where the limits are of what you can do, of what is available to you. So you'll see this in the terrible twos especially. So you get these toddlers, these 2-year-olds that are trying to test the boundaries of what they can get away with, how narcissistic they can be, how self-centered they can be. And literally, when you're a newborn, the theory goes, you don't yet know the boundary between self and other, because in the mother's womb, you just thought that, I mean, it just makes sense that even the mother's womb was part of you. There wasn't this differentiation between self and other yet. And then the baby comes out, and it's still, whenever it needs milk, it just goes wah, 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 and poof, this nipple comes out of nowhere and it just sucks this milk and it's fed. So it feels like it controls the nipple by just going wah, wah, wah enough. And that's part of an evolutionary, like an evolved function in us. And when we needed our needs met, maybe we had an uncomfortable feeling because the shit was all over our diaper. We just go wah, 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 and someone changes it magically. It's an amazing thing. It's like room service without having even to push a button. You just verbally go wah, 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 and they meet your needs. Eventually you get big enough and wah, wah, wah ain't gonna cut it no more. And it's a rude awakening. And that's why you see little 2-year-olds just freaking out in the restaurant or on the floor, just like, and just testing their boundaries, discovering restraints. And now that you have a restraint, human psychology shows, now it's easier to be happy. All right, so hopefully you've read enough psychology to know the science on this. But without knowing where the limits are, it's hard to be content. So contentment comes from knowing and being, where the limits are and being content. Then the contentment starts to kick in. It triggers that. So we have these needs for restraints. We have some parents who have very permissive parenting, and it turns out with permissive parenting, children aren't happier. They're less likely to be happy and settled in life if they don't have a healthy sense of restraint. Then when you have your limits, now it starts to get kind of boring because you're just like straitjacketed in there. So you know what you can't do, but now you want to know what's coming up. You want to get surprised. You want the unpredictable. You need some uncertainty. You need some variety in your life. You want to play, right? So uncertainty and play are very closely related, but uncertainty is just needing some new thing. So lots of studies on this. Children and adults, especially children, will look longer at something that's surprising. All right, so they just have puppets and whatever else, and if they just are seeing something that's expected, they just kind of look at it. Yeah, okay. But if something totally changes, can't figure it out. Well, what the heck is going on? They'll just stare at it longer. It's more fascinating to them. It meets one of their needs of uncertainty. We actually have this need for uncertainty. This is why you'll watch a movie that you haven't seen before, and part of the attraction of that is you don't know how it's going to end. Same with the book. You don't want the spoiler alert, right? Hey, you want the spoiler alert. You don't want the spoiler, right? That's part of our human needs. We want to be surprised. We want the unpredictable. And this is also one of the perhaps evolved mechanisms for giving us the motivation to move up to the breakthrough, to level up, to break through to the next level, because it's from an unpredictable place. So it's uncertainty. That's the third human need. And then as a part of that, and I think it's a separate need, is the need for play. So now that you've got your restraints, your limits, your healthy limits delimited for you, and now you have some variety in there, it introduces the conditions for enough conditions for play and the spontaneity and this kind of improvisational nature of life. And if you've been a kid, hopefully you have, and didn't have your childhood ripped away from you, you know how fun play is. And if you don't get playtime, it's no fun, right? So playtime is a huge part of a healthy human life. And hopefully you're getting that need met. And sometimes you're not. And a lot of achievers have not been playing, have not allowed themselves to play for a very long time. They've forgotten that, and they don't realize that they haven't met, that there's a universal human need they're not meeting as a result of their achieving. Okay, and so then we get to the more adult type of needs now, and we get the significance, but that kicks in at like age 3, where we're looking to be enough or worthy, especially worthy of mommy and daddy's connection and love. Oops, I clicked early. So significance comes online. I'm going to talk a lot more about that later, but you can see how most achievers on the surface are very easily identified as being driven by significance. It's not that some great invention needs to happen or like some great breakthrough or achievement needs to happen. It's that they need to make that achievement. Right, so you can imagine somebody who was driven to cure polio, or I don't know, pick some cure COVID, right? And you would rejoice if that was your motivation, truly, as a scientist, if some other scientists did it. But if you're significance driven, a part of you will be let down because you wanted to be the one who did it. And I work with plenty of achievers like that, who want to be for themselves the one who is significant. So it seems like, oh, you're actually not driven so much by the achieving of the goal in the abstract. You want it to be about you achieving it. And there's a deeper reason for it, which we'll get to in the next slide or a little later. And then, of course, beyond that is autonomy, where you need to have the freedom. So I think most of us living in the under Western democratic or political systems understand the value of freedom and of autonomy. And almost all religions understand the power and the necessity of autonomy and free will. So I'm not going to dwell on that, but that's also there. And of course, then connection. And connection I would differentiate from love, simply in that connection is more attenuated. So it's more like the connection between you and your friends, you and the physical universe, the nature, communing with just this connection with the greater, something greater beyond yourself. And of course, connection with like in terms of affection and just knowing that you're plugged into something bigger. Love is an intense emotion and state. And that is where there's this unconditional regard towards. So you're sort of giving fully of yourself, and very light in the real, like a proper definition of love, where it's not transactional love, which isn't really love, but full love, which is where you give yourself unconditionally, because transactional love is just sort of like a contract. But love, really, where you're not looking for it to come back, you can probably only unconditionally love maybe half a dozen to a dozen people at any given time. The more people you add into that you love, the less the word love means love. Then we're looking more at connection. But you can see, obviously, connection and love come online. It's not that you didn't have this need from the very moment you were born for love. It's that you're not really aware of it yet because you have these more primitive needs that need to be met first. So this is generally speaking how most people go through life, absent any major trauma in early childhood. You would go through these needs generally coming up in this way. Once your need for love is met, then you start to tap into more higher level needs like growth and contribution. Okay, so the issue is those lower needs of certainty, significance, a variety of restraints, of play, of autonomy, of connection. These lower level needs, in order for them to not drive your life. So by the way, if you're driven by any of those needs, your life by the time you hit adulthood will not be fulfilling. So the problem with phase 1 and 2 is if you're driven by anything other than love, growth, contribution as your top needs, your life will be a recipe for meaninglessness, kind of emptiness, and maybe self-destruction. And it's just a matter of time, and you may not realize it. That self-destruction might turn out to be something like a life of quiet desperation, which is this life of emptiness, right? Now, then the obvious thing to do is, how do I get out of that? How do I graduate up to a life led not by significance and certainty, but by love and contribution, for instance? Right. Okay, so now we have to go even deeper than the 10 universal human needs. Now we have to get to the root of it. So I look at it as like The 10 human needs, and then underlying that, like as foundational pillars, are the twin terrors. What are the twin terrors? Okay, you don't really need the slide, it's just got 3 words on it. The twin terrors are the fear that you're not enough, and the fear that if you're not enough, you won't be loved. The fear that you're not enough, not worthy, not good enough, and the fear that you won't be loved. And they're linked in that way. The fear that if you're not good enough, then you won't be loved. Ultimately, it comes down to that you just want to be loved, that you just want love. And you can see that this is true of every human being, even psychopaths, arguably. And this will help you to get into compassion with yourself, which is where we're going with this. It will set us up for tomorrow, where you're going to go even deeper to giving yourself love and compassion and forgiveness and gratitude. And you got to come back to tomorrow. Okay. So there's a two-parter on the needs. We're going to complete it tomorrow. You must come back tomorrow. So these twin terrors are driving us. Now notice that the phase 2 knight is acutely driven by this terror that if he's not enough, well, he's not enough. He probably hasn't linked the fact that if he's the belief that he's not enough will mean that he's not loved. And then ultimately, you got 10 universal needs here going to 2 pillars of the twin terrors: not enough, not loved. And they're all resting on one foundation, which is the fear of death. Because if you're not enough, then you won't be loved, and then you will die, which is literally true when we were newborns, that we have evolved a need to be loved. And this fear is fundamental in us. In fact, I've done a 4-part video series, it's about 4 hours. I put it up for free on YouTube, on the understanding the denial of death helps us understand all of human civilization and the history of it. And this is my reaction, my response to Ernest Becker's amazing book, Denial of Death. But we're not going to go that deep right now. We're going to stay up at the twin towers, the twin terrors, and the pillars there of the fear that if you're not enough, then you won't be loved. And that's what's driving this neurotic lifestyle of the phase 2 knight that he can't get rid of. It's so pervasive that if you tell, I've explained this, I'm a big part of my modality is intellectual, using concepts, words to explain things. Over the past several years, I've been really getting training, experimenting with lots of different modalities of directly addressing your emotions and the unconscious. And that's why I'm such a big believer in psychotherapy, where we help you close your eyes, get in there, get into your emotions, go deep into what's actually there in your unconscious. But the psychoeducation, as therapists call it, like education about your psychology, is very helpful. I've been able to just help phase 2 knights who are really bright, really determined to figure things out, make sense of everything. It's got to make sense, to walk them through just using Socratic dialogue to get them into assent to the belief, to the proposition that, yes, I'm driven to do this because of this fear that if I don't do it, if I don't achieve, then I'll be worthless at some level. I won't be good enough. And they're good enough, not good enough could be completely arbitrary and subjective for them. Failing for a billionaire might be that you only exited for 10 million. That might be a failure for somebody. It might be like a big dream for most people, right? So this is all subjective, and it's all driven by this fear that if you're not enough, you won't be loved. What really they're asking for, really gunning for, is love. And this is actually driving even your dating experiences, that is creating that anxiety. That anxiety for phase 1 novices of approach anxiety. This is the easiest one to point out. I'm sure you've all felt that. Or just like anxiety that these insecurities that you feel. It might be panic. It might be your mind goes blank. That you really, really like this girl, but you don't know what to say. You don't know how to act. And you're just like in, just sort of freeze mode. Or maybe you're in a flight mode. You're just like running from her, running from the bar or whatever, just fleeing from it. Or it might be a fight where you're rationalizing shit about her to make yourself feel better, that you got no chance with her in your mind anyway. So you just rationalize yourself out, fight, flight, or freeze. And that's driven actually by this deep insecurity that you're not enough. Because what you're hoping that in your unconscious is that if you can be enough, then you will get this love that you really crave. And that's so deep in your unconscious that you're probably not aware of it. And if this is the first time you're considering this, it probably will take you a while to wrap your mind around it. You might be fighting it. That's quite normal. This is why I don't put this material on day 1. Now I'm speaking to phase 2 knights, where they've been struggling with and striving and just pushing and just do it. That's just normal. That's how they run their lives. They just get up and do it. No excuses, just get it done. And for that person, you know what I'm talking about when I say when you're probably tired, you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you just want to rest. And what is driving you that you can't rest? It's the stress that you're experiencing, which is rooted in fear, if you look at it more closely. And that fear, what's that fear of? Ultimately, the fear that you're not enough, and that if you're not enough, you won't be loved. And ultimately, if you trace it back far enough, you can experience, and this is where usually the phase 2 night then cuts things off. Don't go there, man. I'm not going to go there. Because now we get into, how did you develop this fear, this belief that you're not enough unless you achieve, unless you please, or, you do stuff, you achieve, you become significant. How did you develop that? Early on, there was a series of micro traumas, and your decision from those was that you had to be a certain way, an achiever. You had to be a certain way in order to get or keep the love of the person that you craved it the most from, some parental caregiver. And at the bottom of that was this love, this fear that you're not enough, going into losing that love. I'm going to be getting more into love and how to get that at that deeper level tomorrow, but I'm going to start you off here. Again, it's a two-parter. So you got to come back tomorrow so we can lock that in. So we're going to start you off today and then let that sit with you overnight. It's working in your unconscious mind. So when you come back in tomorrow, you're raring to go. Your unconscious brain has already been chewing on that. It's been settling in there, right? It's been marinating. And then when we come back tomorrow, we're going to go even deeper. You'll be ready for this deeper teaching even further. But the first, we're going to start you off. So that's the psychoeducation part. So you have intellectual assent, or at least openness to it, the possibility of it. And now we get into the first step, practically speaking, which is to access gratitude. Gratitude is the easiest way in. It's like the first exit door, whatever it is. The first rung on the ladder. All right, so gratitude, the rung of the ladder out of the pit. Okay, so gratitude. And just helping you prime yourself to be in a state of gratitude. Because when you're in a state of gratitude, and you heard this on day one from Nick S., that if you are grateful, you can't simultaneously be grateful and afraid. If you're fully feeling that gratitude, you're not going to be able to be dwelling on the fear. And if you can stay in that state of gratitude, it will lead you into the deeper states of phase 3 and being able to train yourself to get into gratitude. We're going to do now a really powerful meditative exercise that's rooted in empirical evidence, and it's actually melds the best of spirituality, teaching, and ancient mysticism with real scientific empirical evidence. It was first introduced to the United Nations in the year 2000 and is used in its clinical trials in juvenile detention centers and jails and prisons. And it's had an amazing effect. And you can just try it for yourself. So whenever you hear empirical evidence, that's great to give it a shot. But the proof is in the pudding. You try it for yourself because it might work for them, not for you. You try it for yourself and you got to give it a full chance. So this one will be embodied. I've got a whole other section on the science of embodied cognition, one of my areas in my professorate. And embodied cognition is where you understand things better by doing. And maybe you understood this when in high school when your teacher said, you'll get a higher grade on your presentation if you get everyone involved in participating. So part of that is true. It's just cognitively true that if you involve the doing of it, it'll get locked into your brain more at a deeper level, like more rootedly, or what's the word, more strongly. Okay, so for embodied cognition, I'm gonna ask you to say stuff. You were supposed to say stuff in the Transforming Fear meditation where I said, repeat after me. Maybe you just repeat it to yourself silently. That's cool for that one. For this one, you've really got to voice it out, right? So you're activating your nervous system when you start to speak. Notice that there's vibrations that go through your bones. That's just to get you going. And then if you could just move around a bit, right? So you just want to move your body, use your voice, really speak out. Okay, we're going to start right off the bat, just running with this, all right? So I'm just preparing you for this. As soon as we start, you're going to be saying stuff. So it'd be best if you find a place where you're not too self-conscious and can actually verbalize it to activate your autonomic nervous system up and down the spine, out from the spine, up from the brain stem, boom, down to spine, out to the rest of your body. This helps lock all of that good juice back up into your brain. This is really important for more than just intellectual understanding of these concepts, of these states, of these emotions. You've got to have it at the level of your emotions, which are right up all the way through your body, these embodied cognition. Okay, so you got to play full out with this. I've been saying this a lot. Go all in, play full out, all that stuff. This is an example of that. When I say this, and you go, it's not going to work. Okay, so if you do that, or if you don't even go, you just go, and you just say it to yourself silently, don't expect this to have much effect on you. Okay, you've got to actually do the actual exercise. Okay, so the more you play full out, the more you do it, the more you're going to feel it. Okay, enough preamble. Let's get into it. I can do a little DJing here with the background music, and we will get going. You guys ready? Hey, Jonathan, good to see you. Oh, you've been on for a while. Great to see you, Jonathan, again. And Neil, I'm getting a lot of notifications that Neil's been watching, so that's great. I think maybe he's coming in and out. Great to see you here, guys. Let us know if you're tuning. Oh, right, I forgot 10 to 15 second lag here. So by the time you tell me, I should start. So you're ready. I'm assuming you're all ready. Awesome, cool. Thank you for the thumbs ups. All right, so here we go. If you are operating heavy machinery, pull it over, turn it off. If you got anything on your lap, whatever, put that aside. You can start by sitting and just take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And we're going to get going right in a few moments. When we personally take responsibility for clearing up our past, we make the way for personal growth. If you're tied to the past with resentment, anger, or grief, you can't fully access your true self or your energy. When you emotionally take 100% responsibility for your own attitude, you gain a new level of awareness and understanding. But first, we'll start with an incantation. Repeat after me. Say this out loud. All I need is within me now. All I need is within me now. All I need is within me now. All the love I need is within me now. All the love I need is within me now. All the love I need is within me now. All the love I need is within me now. I'm so happy I can't stop smiling. Now put on a stupid ass grin, and even if you have to fake it, make it huge, or you could just enjoy it. Say this out loud. I'm so happy I can't stop smiling. 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 Everything in my life is guided, and I am so grateful. Everything in my life is guided, and I am so grateful. Everything in my life is guided, and I am so grateful. Everything is guided in my life, and I am so grateful. Thank you. Now repeat after me. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Go. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. 10 times, and each time you say it, we'll do it from a different place. This time, say it as if the words were sacred. There was no pain in you. It was you taking 100% responsibility, even for people you're not responsible for. It wasn't heavy. It was an act of love. It was zeroing out the books. It was ending eternal conflict for them and for you. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Say it again. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Say it again. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Say it again. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Say it from a place of passion now. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. From passion. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. From joy. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. From joy. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. From a sense of excitement that it's helping them and it's helping you be free at last. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. As if it were freeing them and you could feel it in your soul, and it felt beautiful. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Speak it as if God were speaking it to you and through you, letting you let go of anything, knowing there was nothing in this world you've ever done or ever could do that would separate you, that there is no more need for shame or guilt or fear. You've learned. Life is learning, and you've committed to being more, and that's all anyone, including your Creator, could dream for. So say it as if God were speaking it, and you feel God's love filling your soul. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Say it with your heart filled full of pure gratitude and appreciation. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Say it as if every word made you feel more love than you've ever felt in your life. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Say it as if you were finally free of anything that burdened your heart or your soul or your body. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. With total freedom, say it. Go. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Now repeat, my life is guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. My life is guided. I am so grateful. Thank you. My life is guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. My life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. My life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Again, my life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Again, my life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Say it with joy and gratitude mixed together. Go. My life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Again, my life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Say it's like the most passionate and certain thing in your soul, like you're free as you say it. Go. My life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Again, my life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Again, my life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Say it as if your soul knew it was finally unlimited and there was nothing to fear. You're that certain. Go. My life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Again, my life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Again, my life is so guided and I am so grateful. Thank you. Now repeat, all I need is within me now. 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 All the love I need is within me now. All the joy I need is within me now. All the excitement I need is within me now. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now in silence, just give thanks for the perfection of your life, the problems and the joys, knowing everything you've ever experienced, including even the pain, is a gift because it sculpted us. Because we didn't stay with the pain, we found a way to learn and grow and become more. So you have more to give and more to enjoy. Give thanks in whatever way works best for you. Give thanks to the divine in whatever form you've learned to trust it. Give thanks in whatever way works best for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It has been such a beautiful day.
Give thanks for the perfection of your life. The problems and the joys, knowing everything you've ever experienced, including even the pain, is a gift because it sculpted us. Because we didn't stay with the pain, we found a way to learn and grow and become more.
I'm waiting for the fire to glow.
And so it is. And so it is. Thank you.
Let's burn one down and slowly disappear. 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 Oh, I've been hiding deep in the woods. Oh, I've been searching as far as I could for some answers to my riddles and my doubts. Oh, I might have taken doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter now. Remember Nina and the waves, East Coast for an holiday. I remember the way she laughed, and those warm summer nights sleeping in the grass. Nina and the waves, Nina and the waves. Oh, I've been hiding deep in the woods. Oh, I've been searching as far as I could. Oh, I've been hiding deep in the woods. Oh, I've been searching.
Beautiful. Okay. Welcome back. So, how was that? Just let us know in the comments how that was, how the experience went for you. Just going to play some reflection music here. Okay. That music will appear any second now. There we go. And for those who are in phase one, it may have been quite overwhelming because there was quite a lot of vulnerability right off the bat. For those who are in phase two, maybe you were searching for how to do it right. How do I do this meditation in a way that's effective? And I've experimented with just letting the Ho'oponopono process oh, by the way, it's called the Ho'oponopono, that four phrase mantra, and just letting that take root, do its thing in the unconscious, not having to be directed towards any object in particular, as a way of leading more directly to a phase two night into phase three. But maybe you were sort of scrambling at the beginning. Who do I direct this to? And it can be directed to anyone that you want. It could be directed to an ex that you're trying to get rid of in your mind, of just letting go that bitterness, resentment, and those ties. It could be, ideally, would be in the context of what we're doing here, directed towards a part of you that may have been neglected, or especially the critical part or the achiever parts that are just exhausted now. And they've worked so hard, and just directing that, I love you, please forgive me. Those emotions and those words to those parts, whichever parts need it. Jalen wrote, that was very powerful for me. Awesome. Christopher Mitchell, great to have you join. He wrote, thanks for being there for us. I felt waves through my mind. Awesome. It's part of that last song there, which was quite evocative of just letting go, of letting the waves pass. And the concept of the waves is an ancient one. You find it in Buddhism, Stoicism, and for meditation in general. Let us know how that went for you. You can type that right here in the comments. And, Neil wrote, my inner child has really appreciated that. Oh, wonderful to hear, Neil. So happy to hear that. Awesome. Just keep typing that in there. I'll keep reading them out as they come up. And I really appreciate you sharing how that went for you. John wrote, that was so liberating. I just flowed with it like I was singing and felt a strong sense in myself. Beautiful, John. Congratulations on playing full out for that. Milos wrote, it was very peaceful and calming for my soul. I felt very present and relaxed. Heart emoji. Awesome, Milos. So happy about that. Congrats to you. And Tang Chun Chia wrote, thank you. I felt my shoulders becoming lighter after. Beautiful. So happy to hear that. And the Ho'oponopono is especially powerful when directed toward your achiever parts, who've been working so hard in trying to stave off the disaster that's, or the stress of the thing that's impending, that they believe is impending. So just directing that to them, of asking for their forgiveness that you haven't been neglecting or haven't been aware of how hard they're working, and that they don't need to do that anymore. And that's the second part of the message that will come tomorrow. But just let this Ho'oponopono sink into your mind and your unconscious. Let it take root, or plant that seed, and let it percolate, marinate over the next day. And we'll come back and do the second half of that. So so notice that a big component of that meditation was gratitude. How gratitude drives out fear. Experiencing gratitude meets a ton of your needs. If you can stay in gratitude, then you'll stay in the state where you're already meeting your most fundamental needs. If you stay with gratitude, you can meet your needs for certainty, for significance, for connection, for love. And it's one of the best antidotes. We'll start with that, and then we'll move up from there. That's the first rung on that ladder. And then tomorrow we'll be getting even deeper, even further. Zach wrote, the feeling of the waves through each message built stronger. It was a relieving feeling. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Zach. And congratulations to all you guys for playing full out and going for it. And I'm so happy to see how that went for you. So, by the way, if you enjoyed the Ho'oponopono, if you've enjoyed any of the meditative exercises we've done, if you have benefited a lot from just learning about your own psychology, I've got a coaching group that's opening starting tomorrow, and it only opens once or twice a year. So it's going to open tomorrow, and it will close on Tuesday. It's part of why we're doing the 5 days here. It's kind of draw attention to this, to give you tons of value, of course, but also tell you, hey, if you like this, you're going to really love this coaching group. And it's a live coaching group that I do called Legendary. I go live in that group and coach them every week live. We have Q&A, just open Q&A. We also have a series of challenges that we walk our members through. It includes not just weekly live coaching, but it includes these bonus courses that open up each month. Bonus courses like Drive, like Heart, like the True Self, like Core, like Purpose. So these are all bonus courses inside the Legendary Coaching Group. And they open up each month as you go through the group so that you don't get information overwhelmed. But they're sequenced just in the right time, tested. We've tested this for years. Sequence, the best sequence. Also, there are bonus meditations that you get new and fresh each month. And it's also a direct line to me for any questions about actually anything in life that you think that I can answer, that you could direct to me in our monthly Q&A. We also have a monthly book club, a book analysis club. So we do that as well as part of it. If you want to learn more about it, you can, I'll put the link here somewhere in the comments, or I'll put it in I'll put the link to the waiting list page so you can learn about some of the details there. But it will open tomorrow. So if you're interested in it, think about it, check it out tomorrow. I'll say a little bit more about it tomorrow. I just wanted to preview that for you coming up. Okay, so today we want to end off with the growth points. So that's the phase 3 sage, but there are some limitations of the phase 3 sage. You're like, what is that? This phase 3 sounds amazing. How can there be limitations? There are growth points. Maybe that's a better way of putting it rather than limitations. Growth points. And the growth points are the phase 3 sage can still expand into not just love, but contribution, even higher level, or even a bigger than just love. Because as I said, unconditional love, if it really means unconditional, where you give your life almost, or for real, for that person, probably, half a dozen or so at any given time. The more you spread it out, the less intense it is. So you can there's actually a way, as we move into phase 4, of expanding that feeling into contribution and overflowing. Okay, so that's one of the growth points. Another is the growth point of helping others along the path. That's an actual separate thing, separate skill set, separate motivation. And another growth point, like the contribution, is the love itself can be like a well overflowing. And then a final growth point is the practice of empathy, even when it's not effortless. That is, to be compassionate, to be able to tap into compassion and empathy of your true self and the gratitude, even in the most trying times. Okay, so we're going to get into that tomorrow, of how that works, because it flows right out of phase 3 into phase 4. Come back tomorrow. We're going to lock it in and finish off this 2-parter tomorrow in day 4 of the challenge. All right. So I got the background music playing. Just keep it going. Hopefully it's not too loud. It's quiet as I can make it. Now we will announce the winners for day 3. Drum roll. Drum roll for the winners for day 3. They are Milos Krivan. Milos, congratulations. I see you are on here. Congratulations. And to Darren So, congratulations. Is Darren on here? I think I saw him earlier. Congratulations to Darren So and Milos Krivan for our day 3 winners of their live video entries for challenge day 2. For your day 2 challenge, these are the winners. Milos Krivan and Darren So, congratulations. You win free access to our course, Conversation Vortex, all about conversation, how to charm women using words. And it walks you through a step-by-step course on exactly that, conversation. And it's a very practical course. And I'm really excited for you to get into it. So just email support@auradating.com to get your free access and claim your prize to Conversation Vortex. So congrats again, Milos Krivan and Darren So. All right, so the action step challenge for today, you can find the action sheet on the concierge page, which is in the link in the description. Hopefully you've already visited the concierge page. If you go there now, just refresh the page or click on the link, and you will see, scroll down, you'll see challenge day 3, and click here to download the action sheet. You download it there. I'm also going to be posting it directly, uploading it directly into the group. Okay, so the action step, the challenge itself for day 3, the challenge itself is to go live and share. So by the way, in the action sheet, there are 3 questions. Do that first, to write down your answers to fillable PDF, and then do the action step, which is to go live and share 3 things you can be grateful every day. So a lot of achievers, they wait to be grateful for things because they use that like a carrot and a stick kind of motivation to motivate them to achieve, because they need extra stress to do it, right? We've already learned how toxic that is. So staying in gratitude, what you want to do is to find 3 things you can be grateful for every day, not like 10 years later when you exit your company, or not when you finally graduate from your graduate degree or whatever. Right now, every day, what are 3 things that you can be grateful for every day that forces you to think of simple things that you can be grateful for every day? It's really important to realize how many things in your life you can be grateful for every day. If you have all 4 limbs right now working, you can be grateful for that, for instance. You saw on day 1, there are people who are in the state of gratitude who don't have those 4 limbs. There are many other things that you can be grateful for, and you just need to be paying attention to those, focus on those. Those will bring you back down. They will bring you back down to reality and bring you back into the being present. Down is often negative contribution. That will bring you up the ladder to phase 3. That first rung of the ladder is gratitude. The challenge is think of 3 things you can be grateful for every day. Go live and share them. Really simple. You just do it in 1 minute or so, 2 minutes. Just go live and share 3 things you can be grateful for every day. I'll give you an example. Grateful for all 4 limbs. I'm grateful that I don't have colon cancer, because I actually had a scare about a month ago when I had very high fecal blood count. Turns out there were hemorrhoids. But they did a whole colon check and no polyps, no tumors, just hemorrhoids. So they cleaned those out. Very grateful for that, because that took out Chadwick Boseman, RIP, and many other, actually, because of that, I went and researched colon cancer. And if you are in your 40s and you haven't gotten your colon checked, do it, because the incidence of it growing among younger people, for whatever reasons they don't know yet fully, maybe processed food or whatever, it's increasing. So it's also taken out Ernest Becker, who wrote one of my favorite books, Denial of Death. He died in his 40s as well. So many great men in their 40s passed away from this. I'm grateful that I'm still alive and cancer-free. And the third thing I'm grateful for is that I get to, there's so many things, but I'm going to pick this one. I get to share with you in your journey, and I get to contribute to your journey directly right here this week. Those are my 3. Of course, wait, that last one I can only do this week. So let me pick another one. I'm grateful that I grew up as a second language learner of English. I learned it. It wasn't my first language, but I have another first language that I get to use every day here in Taiwan as well. So I'm grateful that something that is an immigrant challenge has actually turned out to be a real strength. So I'm very happy for that. So I'm grateful for that. What 3 things can you be grateful for every day? Go live and share. I love watching your live videos. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your 3 things you're grateful for. tomorrow, come back tomorrow. We're going to be going even deeper into phase 3 and then moving you up into phase 4. We'll be exploring the depth of love, and that's that most fundamental need that we followed that from the 10 needs into the twin terrors. Love, how that works alongside your true self, how to access, unleash, unlock, and live in the power of your true self. So pretty pumped about tomorrow. Back on same time, same place. See you tomorrow. Thanks so much for being on. Congrats again to Darren, So, and Milos Kriven. Email support@auradating.com. Thanks so much for all those attending here and participating. Neil, great to see you. Thank you so much for being on. Tang Jun Chue, John Champalath, great to have you guys on. Christopher Mitchell, great to see you. Jalen as well. Jonathan, great to have all of you guys on. So, and John, fam, thanks so much for being on. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and to seeing your challenges in the next 24 hours. And I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, David Tian signing out. Level up.